digital, even for me, empowered me to do what I love doing because I wasn't getting the traditional jobs. So that's a beautiful thing. It's empowered a lot of people. But then I kind of hit a point in my life where I needed to kind of recalibrate and disconnect. And I found beauty in that too.
Hi, Shira. How's it going?
Great. It's great being here in Austin, Texas, one of my favorite cities for Consensus.
Yeah, well, we are so happy to have you here in Austin at the Web3 Deep Dive Studio. And hey, Deanna, how's it going?
Hey, going fantastic. So glad you're here, Shira.
We are so happy to have you. So, Shira, we're going to talk all about Web3 and what you're doing in the industry. But first off, let's talk a little bit about yourself. You are a 2-time Emmy-nominated producer and host. That's obviously very impressive.
I appreciate it. It's funny because I only recently found the second nomination when I was going through boxes, and I realized that in my 20s, and I guess I'm now losing track of time, but in my pretty much like earlier on in my career, I was hosting for this NBC show locally, and we got nominated for an Emmy, and I forgot, which is crazy. I found it in a box, and I realized, it's not just one time, it's 2 times.
That's awesome. I probably wouldn't forget about something like
Pat
that.
on the back.
I'm glad you remembered.
Well, it's just weird, but that also just shows like how distracted we could get. Like for me, that was a bit of an aha moment. Like, were you recognizing the things as they were happening when they were happening, and how we could be going through life and amazing things are happening, but what are we focusing on? I think that's a constant
definitely and
work in progress for me.
Right, and we're going to talk about that today. But before we get started, tell us a little bit more about your background and how you became involved in the Web3 space.
Yeah, so as you mentioned, I've been in digital media for 2 decades. It's really where I built my career. It started out as a jumping off point. Like a lot of people, I think, thought, oh, this is cute. You're doing all this like internet stuff, web videos before even YouTube. Kind of aging myself. And I would meet with executive producers of TV shows, and then they thought, okay, you're just doing this basically to get in with traditional media, which, by the way, I kind of was, but it was more that I just like practicing my craft. And then it became the career. So I came up in LA when Silicon Valley was kind of just coming in, and Ashton Kutcher was trying to get 1 million followers on Twitter. And I became the go-to person around creating online and digital content for a lot of these startups and a lot of these founders. And I kind of knew how to work with entrepreneurs, but I also understood the traditional media side of things and bringing best practices to the work that they were doing. And then that led me to working with CBS News as the first ever vlogger. And that's where What's Trending emerged over a decade ago, where we were covering a lot of the early industry of viral videos, and I was doing video interviews. At the time, it was only blogs, right? And so I became like the go-to person to do video with these viral stars. And after seeing the popularity of that, I said, like, wouldn't it be cool to have a show for the internet by the internet? So What's Trending came to be, and it was a live streaming show. And then it ended up growing more into a digital media brand and publisher, and not just with me, right? It's not just What's Trending with Shira Lazar. We have a team now that creates content daily. And so I did that for over a decade, a lot of highs and lows, and then started focusing a bit back on my own brand and discovering what I was interested in again. Because as you might know, if you're listening or you're here when you start a company and you're in it for so long and there maybe hasn't been a result yet, it could get a lot. You kind of think like, maybe we should just stop this chapter and move on, right? If you haven't sold or had that conclusion. But I decided to figure out how to make it work for me versus me work for it, and dove into my personal brand, where I started checking out what was happening in the crypto space. Like it started out, in 2018, but then even then I kind of ignored it. I don't know why. Thank you, universe. And then I think it was really during COVID where I started getting asked to advise some crypto companies that are legit. And then that merged into, as the NFT space was starting to pop up on Twitter, because I was on Twitter so early, I had a Twitter following, and people were like, wait, you do interviews, you host things, can you host our shows and around these NFTs? So I started doing a lot of that, and it was intriguing to me because what I saw was the same energy that I'd seen in the early days of the creator economy and YouTube creators with these NFT artists and the brands and communities that were emerging. And that's kind of how it, long story short, I moved more into the Web3 space like at the end of 2021 actually, and started hosting spaces, creating content, getting asked to consult and advise, getting asked to speak. And it was a bit of a snowball effect. And I do think it wasn't out of nowhere. It partially was because of, it was like right timing, opportunity, and then my background, which lent itself really to this space, and then just natural enthusiasm for what I was seeing.
Mm-hmm. And so with that being said,
Yeah.
you know, you coming from this traditional creator background, although you've been very innovative, were NFTs exciting to you? I mean, what did you feel about NFTs in general?
At the time, for me, one, it was art. I love art.
Okay.
So I did love just the pieces and the expression and what I was seeing. And then I also loved the stories behind the founders and the people creating this art. I connect with that. I'm a very human interest person, like that. I love human interest content, like lifestyle content. Like when I started, I was interning at Ellen DeGeneres show. So I love great stories and hearing how people went up against obstacles and overcame them. And I feel like that's a lot of the stories here, right? And then how this space, whether it be through art or crypto, was disruptive, right? For people who didn't have other opportunities. For me, that's interesting. So I kind of liked it all. A bit of like the rebel going against the grain, all of it. It kind of was juicy to me in terms of what I like and how I felt. Like I felt personally like I was never really fully accepted by traditional media. So I think I felt a bit of a connection to some of the artists that possibly didn't feel connected to the traditional art world. And then you add in the layer of like all these amazing female founded projects, whether it be like Boss Beauties or Women Rise or Dead Fellas. I was seeing that and I started collecting and sharing what I was collecting and the communities around it, like the other women and people I was meeting that had similar values and energy was really cool.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting that you say women and community because the industry has opened its doors now to more women and just diversity, I think, with the rise of Web3. I think that's allowed for it to kind of differentiate with a group of different people.
Yeah, I mean, and still there could be a lot of the same. Even when there's women, it's like a lot of white women, right? So I always bring that up as an awareness of like the work we get to continue doing. That said, yeah, I think that there's pockets of really incredible people. And I think it could get hard even now. You're on Twitter, social media, and through the news, the headlines you see and hear can be really toxic. And some of them are real. So let's not escape the reality. But then when you come to events like these or you just hang out with people, you recognize like, wow, this is why I'm in a space like this, because of some of the really amazing people. While there can be a lot of other weird stuff that's there. But I do think I'm meeting some really incredible women that are from all backgrounds, like that have a background in whether it be music or marketing or fashion and jewelry or investments and funds, like the amalgamation of just all these different types of people and in addition, specifically women, has been really inspiring and continues to create, I think, warmth for me around this space. Because typically in like Web 2 or tech, I would be going to, the TechCrunch event or even South by Southwest. And it was a lot of dudes.
Right, that's where we met.
Right. Yes, I forgot
South
almost.
by Southwest last year.
Oh, last year. Again, it feels like forever ago. But,
Ages ago.
But then, you come here or like even through this space, I've worked with Georgie, who started Wink, Women I Need to Know, and you both need to be part of it. And if any woman is listening, hit me up. We do these really great lunches, and it started out smaller and it's grown, and the amount of brilliance in that room is just amazing. And it's not just superficial networking. It's really really supporting each other and saying like, and the same thing with BFF, like as a founding BFF person.
I was going to say,
what is member of BFF?
What is BFF?
It's a female. Yeah, it's one of
Sorry,
the.
I had to ask.
No, it's one of the
actually am
first
not so
female-founded NFTs. It's like an NFT project, but it's all about education around this space and Web3. And I think they're moving also more into like financial education overall and financial literacy for women and non-binary folks. But at first, it really started out as not just, okay, this is a project founded by women, but how do we get more women educated about how to be in this space if this is going to be some sort of financial and economic and work revolution. And so, that's really been it. It became a safe and fun space to educate and discover and meet other women who are also here. So they have events, they have workshops and classes. You go in their Discord, content, and so it's a space where we could connect. And so, as a founding member, I'm one of a bunch of other women from different industries and leaders, I guess you could say. And we have this amazing Telegram group, and it's just so cool. Like, I'll say, hey, I need to meet this person, or like, do you know how to get in touch with this person, a high level up person? And I'll get people, hit me up. I'll send you the email. I'll make an intro. Like that, for me, it's not just about standing together and helping each other amplifying, but saying like, when you need something, like, here's some pragmatic advice and solutions. Like, I feel like as women, we need to get there together, because I see men being like, how much money do you need to raise? Okay, here's who you need to talk to. Like, I want us women to say, what do you actually need? Let's be like actionable. And can I help you, or do I know someone else who can help you?
I think it's really a good inspiration to hear that you've been able to get involved in all of these groups, and knowing that the crypto community, or Web3 in general, is diverse backgrounds, right? It's not just people from tech that are in this new tech. It's people from all different walks of life. So I'm a huge fan of my BFF. I think they do an incredible job.
Did I explain it properly as what they do?
I think so. Yeah, it's really education and empowerment, right? I think even the way that they landed on the scene was really powerful, with the basic breakdown of what is Web3 and what do you need to know in a really easily digestible way. When you say you're a founding member, what does that mean? How'd you get involved? What do you do with the group?
That's a great question, because a lot of people see that on my Twitter bio, and then when they have me on, the founder of BFF, I'm like, no, please, no misinformation. They were smart. They basically created this program. It's almost like you're an ambassador, but there are women that come from different industries that have shown, I guess, leadership or success that they deem as a success. And I think also alignment of brand and name and all that, where they brought a bunch of those women together, and it could be everyone from like Swan Sit to Sandy Carter to, I think, Mila Kunis or something like that. So celebrities to industry experts, and you're basically there to connect and amplify. And I mean, there's no contract. It's not like I need to do a certain amount every month, but you naturally want to, because they're sharing things that we all like, that we want to share with our communities. So it's that, or even if they had a content series, like, can you contribute to it? So there's all these opportunities that come up, and they put it out to the founding members, like, if you want to be involved in those things, or PR even, which is really cool.
So is My BFF, is that an NFT that you have to have in order to be a part of this community?
So as just a member of the community, to get access to some of their things, although they do a lot that is just open to the public, whether it be their newsletter or Twitter Spaces. But there are certain things that you get access to when you own the NFT. Mm-hmm. And as a founding member, actually, it was very organic, because I saw what they were doing. They'd already launched. They already had their original founding member, their first round. And then they put it out to, I guess, some people in the community, if you want to apply. So there wasn't just like, hey, Shira, you're selected. I actually had to apply. And then there was an alignment of sorts. And then I was given the title as a founding member, which is, again, you're like part of the community, but I guess you're at, oh my God, this sounds like so hierarchical, but it's just like you're involved a bit more hands-on, right? I don't want to say you're like a higher level, like VIP status. That sounds really bad and weird. It's more just like sometimes you're asked to do certain things or support and amplify.
So what I love about that is that it's, as you've mentioned, it's bringing more women, more diverse groups into the Web3 space. And if our listeners today want to get involved, so what, they can just go to OpenSea and buy one of these NFTs, or how does that work?
Or at my BFF on Twitter, you could go there and they have all the links to everything. And then they have their first, what was really cool is that their first collection were these friendship bracelets. I'm like looking, it's not an actual this, but I'm referencing my wrist. But, and they airdropped them for free. So for a lot of people, they onboarded a lot of people who might have been scared because they didn't have crypto or they'd never opened a wallet. And I love projects like that where you actually see possibly data of onboarding folks that haven't been in this space to this industry, right? So they did that, and then they had more of the paid NFT that you ended up buying. Now all of them you have to pay for, because even after the airdrop, they became actually very valuable because it became an access pass to their events and experiences. So it was really interesting the way they did that. They did it during a bull market, but I think it was an interesting model to get people involved, and a lot of people are doing that where it's you're signed up, you get an airdrop of something, and then they'll then do a paid NFT after that.
Interesting. So Shira, you've clearly, you're an innovator, you're an influencer, you've got a lot going on in your life. You are also a big advocate of mental health and wellness. Explain that portion of your life to us.
Well, I realized that I had a lot of anxiety. I grew up with neuroses. I feel like my mom is listening, so I'm sorry. But I think that we all have some sort of connection or disconnection with our own mental health. It's part of our identity and how we function. And so whether you're aware of it or not, there's things going on. No one's perfect, right? So I think for me, I've always loved these conversations, but I guess while running a company and going through some major highs and major lows, I started realizing that there's a lot that was coming up for me, whether it be anxiety that felt a bit more than normal, or how I was taking care of myself or treating others, and how I was showing up wasn't really, I felt like, my best self. And that is because of a variety of things, but ultimately, I mean, we don't need to go on like a whole therapy podcast right now, but then it led me onto a bit more of a journey of personal growth and figuring out like why I was where I was at that point. At the time, and this was probably in 2017, I felt like I was feeling a sense of like a lack of purpose. I'd done all this stuff already, got nominated for an Emmy, had perceived success, but I felt a bit like a failure, or not even that. I didn't feel excited about what I was doing anymore. And I think that it's amazing because some people might go, wow, exciting, that means there's a new chapter ahead. But I think as humans, we like stability, and the non-clarity of the future can be scary. And that could actually open up a bit of a downward spiral sometimes, right? Of anxiety, it could lead to depression and all this stuff. And so it was very confusing and sad for me, because I typically am someone who is clear about what I want and excited about life, and I wasn't feeling that way. So it led me on a bit of a journey through books and workshops and traveling, and then I realized, wow, these are tools I'm learning about, and then therapy, by the way. There were mental health professionals involved at a certain point. And then I realized, wow, this isn't just like a one-time thing. Like, this moment in my life brought up an awareness of spaces that I actually think are, and topics I think are really interesting, and I want to learn more about. And then in learning more about it, and because I'm a content creator, I started talking about it publicly because it seems like there's no line with me between what I keep behind the scenes and in front of the scenes. And then I looked at it more as like, wow, these experiences are such a gift and a strength to bring to what I do, whether it be how I work with the people around me or the content I do. So I started creating more content on my personal brand platforms around that. And then that led me to, during COVID, launching a wellness company with a friend of mine, Deanna Wursta, give her a shout out, co-founder. And we started out just as a virtual studio with facilitators from around the world during COVID on Zoom. And then a year in, we all got burnt out, the people on Zoom and us. And we started actually bringing some wellness programs to big companies we knew, because I'd worked with a lot of big brands through What's Trending. She'd also come from the agency world. And so we started doing like mindfulness meditations and classes with HBO and Capital One, Boys and Girls Club of America, and Spotify. And then Josh Krieger, who's the founder of Outer Edge and NFT LA, saw what we were doing and said, oh, I actually know of an NFT that could use this, I think. So we started working with Dino Monk's NFT in 2021, doing wellness in their Discord. And so that, between that and then my own ambitions in Web3 and my own interests, I said, what if we really doubled down and started figuring out ways to bring these tools to including a new industry. So imagine, the past industries we've been in, it's been an additive after the fact, right? So if we're building the foundation of a new space that we want to be in and live in, what if we added this into the foundation of it, right? And integrated into it. And so that became a mission. And so now we've evolved more into a digital wellness agency. And so we work with companies, their teams, and communities to build customized programs that live virtually. It could live Twitter Spaces, Discord, Slack, Zoom, if you want, in the metaverse, or our IRL. So pop-ups at major events and conferences. Like we were at Art Basel with a bunch of communities, and at Outer Edge as the official wellness partner, and took over a house in Venice as a day to bring the community together. And so that's really where it's evolved. And then it's a constant journey, whether it be like my own work that I do with myself behind the scenes, or what I try to bring to people through what I'm learning.
It's interesting that you're doing health and wellness both in real life and also virtually.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about that. How do you do that in both realms, and which do you think is more effective?
Well, here's the thing is and you also you're a yogi and you practice this. I do think there's something really beautiful about coming back to basics. And we say when you're in any sort of place and spiral, one, get help. There are professionals. But I think there's a reason why people get healed in nature, right? And being offline. But at the same time, I think that there's also a privilege to that. A lot of people find safety and community through all this stuff, through digital and social. And so I think that I don't think there's any cons to going out in nature. I mean, as long as you don't get hit by a tree or something, you know what I mean? Or maybe going out doing some sort of psychedelics, like assisted, there are certain issues with that. But I think that the bigger thing we need to be aware of is our relationship with digital and social, because there's a lot that we could get from it and a lot we could benefit from it. But are we choosing how we interact with it, or are we being reactive to it? And is it basically ruling our world and our behavior? And I think that's the awareness I think more and more people are going to be talking about as we continue. It's like understanding who you are and what the foundation is of you and what brings you joy. And then saying, okay, now I'm in these spaces where there's a lot of stuff going on. How do I want to exist, and how can this work for me and who I am and how I can thrive, right? And that will be different for every single person. But that said, virtual can connect you with global community, can bring people access to these things that don't typically get access. Again, an industry that has been very whitewashed and gentrified, let's be clear. So in many ways, people that can't afford or don't have the subscription, go to their yoga studio, or can't even physically, maybe they don't have time or don't have a car. These tools allow you to bring people those experiences, which it could change the world. But again, it's like how we do it, right? And who are the people behind these things, bringing it to people. But I think I think the metaverse, and you could talk to Krista Kim about this too, it is revolutionary in terms of what's possible, but we have to be wary, and we can't go in blind. I think we need to be aware of the risks and the negatives, right? Jules joined as a co-founder this metaverse company called Inner World, and I think how they've approached this is really amazing, probably better than any metaverse experience I've seen so far. And one, they have an awareness of how much time people are spending inside it, and not like there's a limitation, like you get kicked out, but that maybe the team is pinged to approach that person to say, hey, is there anything happening? Because we've noticed you're here a lot, right? So it takes this scalable yet personal approach to it. And then they're using cognitive behavioral therapy. I mean, the founder is basically a PhD in this, is a doctor, and working with people like Jewel, who's been an advocate in this space for actually a very long time. And they do also keep it very small and intimate to create safe spaces. So I think I'm seeing people like that build environments that aren't like other ones we might go in where you're like, oh God, I actually need a break from this. Like I have a headache from being in this space, like I actually need to go outside. But where I'm seeing real data around change and behavioral change to help people. So I think it's possible, but there's a lot of trial and error. We need to make sure the right people are building it.
That's so great. It sounds like it's not an either or, right? The question was asked, which one is better?
Yeah.
And I'm hearing even in your personal life, there's no either or. You're doing both simultaneously at the same time.
Yeah. I think what I've realized in my, I guess, gift or where I've ended up, and sometimes you need to look around and see where you've ended up, and that could be a good or bad thing, but saying, okay, I'm here for a reason. What does this mean? So I think for me, my journey, digital, even for me, empowered me to do what I love doing because I wasn't getting the traditional jobs. So that's a beautiful thing. It's empowered a lot of people. But then I kind of hit a point in my life where I needed to kind of recalibrate and disconnect. And I found beauty in that too. But then I got brought back in because I think a lot of people, and Thich Nhat Hanh, who's no longer here, Tibetan Buddhist, says, or talks about engaged Buddhism, and whether you're Buddhist or not, it's just this idea that taking these ideals or Eastern philosophy or this idea of disconnect and being in nature and coming back to yourself, but the idea that there are some people that are meant to bring that to modern life. And I do think that that's a gift, right? To be those connectors, to say, like, I know it's possible on this extreme, and I know it's possible in the other extreme, and let's come to an equilibrium. And what's the harmony in it all? And we need more of those people in modern and digital spaces in order to, I think, build, I would say, safer, more responsible, and more impactful spaces if we're going to be the builders, right? And like working with those who might not get it, and that's fine. This isn't a judgment, but like, how do we work together? Because there's a need for both. And in the past, I think it was siloed a bit. You're either an outdoorsy nature person, or you're like a techie geek. Can we find a middle ground? Because we need each other for a sustainable future. So that's kind of where I'm at with that, where I've realized, okay, maybe there's empowerment in both sides, and there's a way to bring it together. I'm still figuring it out, but I've been getting a bit closer, it seems. Maybe.
Seems like it. And it's interesting too with Web3 is this new digital identity, right? The dawn of PFPs, and you identify yourself as a member of the community, but also, it could be anything, which I think is really empowering, right? And
that's a very beautiful thing. Obviously, I would hope that everyone would love themselves, and however they identify and however they are in person, they own that and they believe in that, right? And they know their worth. But that's not the case. That's not a reality. And so the idea that someone could have, an avatar and create the person they want to be and exist, and that helps them with their confidence and how they can thrive in this world, that's a beautiful thing, right? Like, yes, I want that for everyone, no matter whether it's virtual or IRL. My hope is that, obviously, if you feel it virtually, you feel it IRL. If you feel it IRL, you could feel it virtually. But we have some work to do, and that's okay. At least let's feel it somewhere so we know it's possible, right? Yeah.
Right. And Shira, you're also about to launch a new NFT collection that's all about raising awareness around mental health, which I think is so important for the Web3 community, and having that as an NFT. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yes, thank you. Yes, so Peace Inside Live, we've been doing a lot of these events and getting hired to do wellness services for people. And then we had this idea originally, and I say we, my co-founder, Jordana Reem, who's amazing and unfortunately can't be there. She's on retreats in Thailand right now doing the work there. But we came up with this idea for a JOMO journal, the Joy of Missing Out journal. And the concept started out as this journal that we were going to release for Mental Health Awareness Month. And then, of course, I said, oh, well, wouldn't it be cool? How do we get the Web3 community involved? And so I said, well, why don't we get some art in there? So we went to 12 artists, 12 months, I don't know, to say, can you give us a unique piece that expresses what joy means to you? And then I thought, well, we could sell them and it could go to charity. See how this kind of snowball effect happens? It's like, it goes from this simple idea to be like this and that. So then we ended up at the end with 40 artists who all created these beautiful pieces of art. And the prompt was, what does joy mean to you? And the stories around it are just incredible because it ultimately brings something up from the viewer's perspective. And it makes you ask that same question. Or what does it feel like when I see this, what joy means from another person's perspective, right? I love these types of conversations. And we got 5 mental health charities on board. We have the Acoma Project, which helps youth of color. We have Love Loud, which helps the LGBTQ community. We have Half the Story, which works with lawmakers to build more safe spaces around mental health for the next generation and around digital platforms, as we know that's needed right now. The Minds Foundation, which helps individuals in India and also is from a more global perspective, and the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention. So they're all going to be getting funds from this. And then it also, in selecting those, it was because I wanted people to then learn about people and nonprofits doing the work so that whether it be for this campaign and project, they could support them or after the fact, right? And so all primary sales go to the charities. And overall, my hope is to create also a conversation around, mental health and well-being as it relates to our lives and digital culture. And the art represents that, and the conversations that we're having, whether it be Twitter Spaces or IRL as a panel. We hope to bring this as a gallery show around the world to continue that. My co-founder and I have a workshop called From FOMO to JOMO. So the collection is called the JOMO Effect. And that was basically the story behind how it all happened. And so we want to create this effect, this movement, because all of us have so much FOMO. How do we create more JOMO? And so that's basically it. And we partnered with Magic Eden and Polygon on this. Of course, environmentally friendly. It's going to be accessible. Stay tuned for the price and all that.
How many of these NFTs are there?
The collection size is going to be announced very soon, but it's basically, I would have said it today.
Feel free to announce it, Shira,
right?
on Web3 Deep Dive.
It's at the bottom of the screen now.
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, the whole thing is making it accessible and getting as many people involved as possible, right? It's not like we're doing a bid for this or, we're making it so you can't afford it. A lot of the artists we are featuring, some of their art goes for 1/8 plus. And we're definitely not going to be doing that for this. And so I'm also grateful for the artists for giving us not just pieces they already have, right, but actually creating something for this, because it shows, how important the subject matter is, including in, Web3. And then I want to give a shout out also to our partners, because this has been a community project, in many ways decentralized, where we had a concept, but then we worked with companies that have done amazing mints and collections and sold out, like timepieces and like House of First. And we're partnered also with Save a Love, Deepak Chopra's Web3 project, and Polydoge, which is a big Polygon project as well. So it's funny when you ask me, like, tell me about the project. There's so many elements. Sometimes I almost forget, like, how many different things. But it's been really cool to see the community come together around this. And it's an important topic. we talk about it a lot, whether we offline or online, and yet I still think there's a bit of a gap between what does it actually mean to integrate that into this space, right? And so I want to challenge us to go there, right? And it could be uncomfortable because it does mean looking at our own behavior and what we're supporting and like what kind of energy are we creating in this space? Like how are we approaching it ourselves?
Yeah.
So
We need more awareness. I mean, I don't know of many NFT collections centered around mental health, but it's something that the Web3 community and just communities in general, especially within the tech community, we need to embrace that.
Yeah, there's actually a lot of great projects around actually wellness and mental health, surprisingly, but they don't get the attention. Like I know because I'm in a niche community, we're all talking about these things, but these are not the ones that get the attention from quote unquote degens or these big platforms. And so I would throw it back to, and in doing this project, I'm connecting with a lot of different people, and I actually approach quote unquote degens, like not like they're self.
Wait, can you explain what a degen is for
like
the
someone's
listeners?
like obsessed and like deep in it, like lives and breathes it. Like I even think that word is actually very insulting, right? Like
degen?
It sounds like
Degenerate.
Yeah, exactly. It seems weird. Like who would want to call themselves that? And like I don't know. So it's someone just that's like lives it 24/7, which you could say is unhealthy, right? It's like an extreme intensity, like, and they're also traders. Like they know about everything. They know the alpha, which is like the exclusive news. They're early, and they're also, this is how a lot of them they're not just collecting, but they're making money off these things. They're trading it. So I get it. Like for a lot of these people, it is about the story and the founder, but it's also about what's the dollar sign on each digital asset and piece of art. So I'm looking to challenge them to say, hey, I know this is how you work, how you function, but like, how about you come in and support something differently? Like be a degen for impact, be a degen for, social good. And then I also will challenge the platforms who I know need to look at things in a financial perspective. And that's where we've seen artist royalties come into play in the debate around that, where it's like, for secondary, artists shouldn't necessarily get royalties. It should be the choice of the buyer. And it's like, that is not a perspective that supports the ecosystem. It's a one-sided, looks at it from a very one-sided perspective for the buyer. So if you're in a buyer's economy, you're going to be making decisions in a very different way. I think you need a balance of both, right? We were talking about conscious capitalism. Like I think in a community that has creatives and has finances connected to it, like you either are just a platform that just looks at it like, hey, we're a trading platform. That's what we are. If you want to join us, but don't act like you care about creativity when you don't. Let's be clear. Or you're just a technical team. So I think there needs to be a bit of a reality check in that. And that's, I put it on all of us, but including the people need like very deep that are influencing where the market goes, how we buy and sell, and how we position these things.
Right. Shira.
Sorry, I just got very, passionate about that.
No, it's good. It's good to be passionate about it, and you should be passionate about it. So that's great. We're going to have to wrap up.
I know, we
in
need
a
to wrap
little
up.
bit.
Yeah, you're like, wait, I want to just tell people though, besides you're supporting some amazing charities and nonprofits doing the work around mental health, but you're also, I think by supporting this project and buying, one or many, and if you buy every 5, you get a custom atom bomb squad, which is like a top project. Anyway, that said, as a holder, you get access to tools for your own mental health. So we're working with the Chopra Foundation to give, and Peace Inside Live, to give you access to meditations, to classes, to sessions, to help yourself too, right? And so if you do think this is an issue in this space, if you want to see more action, then I think put your money where your mouth is and amplify projects like this and support this so we see more of it. So we aren't the only ones, but it's not unique, right, to do something like this.
Right. Well, I'm interested in doing that because I'm all about mental health and wellness and working out every morning and
I
taking
know.
care of myself.
You're very good. I meditate and you work out. I need to add the working out to the meditation
And
now.
Deanna, you do yoga, which I want to learn how to do yoga because I'm bad at it, but I get better.
Yeah, I also do a lot of JOMO. I missed a lot of stuff. And
Yes,
it's okay.
exactly. Let's talk about that. Well, that was also in this project, like this irony of doing a project and the conversations that are had behind the scenes to get people interested in the marketing. And you're like, are we creating this scarcity, supply and demand? Like we're trying to go against that, the FOMO. So that's actually been a really interesting thing to see behind the scenes, how people approach a project that is about JOMO and mental health. And again, there's work to be done, but that's a good thing.
Yeah.
And thank goodness you're doing the work.
Yeah,
Helping
I
to spread
appreciate it.
the
We're all
word.
doing it. And thank you for having me here to amplify and to support it. Thank you.
Anytime, Shira, you're always welcome on Web3 Deep Dive. And I'm sure our listeners would be very appreciative if you came back and chatted with us again.
Thank you so much.
Cool. Thanks, Shira.
Such a pleasure. Thank you.